Hello, everyone. I'm Daphne Nicolopoulos, the editorial director for Florida Design, and I want to welcome you to another episode of FD Conversations. Today, I have with me designer Jackie Armour, who is going to be talking to us about color, which is actually one of my favorite subjects. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and go over color, which is one of my favorite topics.
Wonderful, and you do it so well. So I'm very
Thank you.
excited to hear your input. So, um, so of course today we're going to talk about how color ties into the home. So I wanted to start with some basics before we go into like some of the specifics of how to work it into design. So tell me, why should people incorporate color into their designs, and how can color transform the way we live?
So color is one of the easiest ways or the most frequent way that we actually communicate. Color says so much about who we are, how we feel, and how we want people to perceive us. So it's actually really critical in almost every aspect of our lives. And I think the most amazing thing is that it can really shape our experience once we're in a space.
That's interesting. And how would you say it shapes our experience? Is it the way we react to it, or the way it expresses us, or some combination of the two?
I think it's a combination of the two, and I think it's about how we feel in a space. And obviously, we could spend a lot of time on color psychology, but I think there's a few images behind me that I think really speak to what that's all about. For example, there's a bedroom there that we used a lot of soft blues, and it's a very tranquil, calming space. And, it was something that was a strong request from clients that, the bedroom be the most soothing space in the house and so forth. So we work really hard to try and create spaces that really tell a story about who our client is and how they feel.
And color really plays into that. So since we kind of got off on this psychology of color, tell me, can certain colors make you feel a certain way? You mentioned blue can be relaxing. What do some other colors do for you, for your mood, or the way you feel, your emotions, and so on?
So every color evokes a certain feeling from us. For example, red is known to raise your appetite or increase your appetite, raise your blood pressure and your heart rate. So if you're someone who loves to have dinner parties and you love to entertain and you love conversation, you should always paint your dining room red or have a lot of red in your dining room. Yellow is a wonderful color for increasing the levels of serotonin in our system. So yellow is it excites us. It puts us in a great mood. It reminds us of the sun shining. So that could be a fun color for any type of area, actually, whether it's a living room area, a family room area, child's bedroom, or maybe we don't want them to be so excited all the time. And green, of course, is a great, it's another color that it really can evoke a feeling of calm and peacefulness.
Oh, that's wonderful. And of course, there are all the hybrid colors as well, and color combinations, which I'd
Absolutely.
like to get into in a little bit. But I wanted to talk a little bit about color palettes, because there's obviously, a strategy behind how you come up with your color palettes. But before we do that, tell me a little bit, kind of in broader terms, what makes color work? In other words, I know there are rules to all this. Can you sort of decode this for our readers?
Sure. I mean, in design, in design school, we learned one hard, fast rule, which was the 60-30-10 rule. And so that 60% of the room would be one color, 30% of the room would be a secondary color or texture, 10% of the room would be more or less your accent. And I think when you're starting out in design, it's a great rule to be able to follow. And I think over time, for me, it's actually become very, very intuitive now. I don't even really think about it. It just happens naturally for me. And I think that, obviously there are lots of rules. Rules can be broken. We can always push the boundaries when we're talking about color and pulling together color schemes for clients. And I think sometimes when we experiment and we have fun and we don't follow the rules, we can end up with incredible projects.
Oh, for sure, definitely. So color palettes. Each project obviously has a unique color palette, and often the scheme pivots from one detail. Like, let's say, for an example, it could be a color in a painting or a rug, or the view. With if you have a mountain view or a sea view or what have you. Talk about your strategies for coming up with color palettes.
I really do a lot of due diligence with my clients. I love to learn about how they live, how they entertain, and some of those answers to those questions sort of start to help guide me through the process of determining colors for them. I also do a whole color analysis with them in terms of favorite colors they like to avoid, rooms that they love, and why. And when all else fails, believe it or not, I go into their closets.
Uh-huh.
And I have had much more success going into their closets and seeing what they wear. That has almost become an aha moment for me with a lot of clients where they can't really articulate. They can articulate a feeling, and I think, but feelings differ from person to person, and what may make you feel very calm may not make the next person very calm, or whatever other emotion they're trying to attain. So yes, the clothing is a telltale sign.
So really, the way you dress says a lot about the way you want to live.
Absolutely.
So one palette translates to the other.
Yes, and you can kind of see I've got on a lot of color today.
Yes, you do. And it looks very, it just looks not like a pop of color. It still looks like it goes together so naturally. So
Exactly.
that's the idea, whether you're dressing or dressing your home, if you were. So now, a lot of people are a little afraid of color. They might, gravitate more toward the whites or the neutrals. So for those who just want to dip a toe into color and use it maybe in a more subtle way, what do you recommend?
I always recommend that clients approach it very slowly, so to speak, and maybe we'll bring in some accessories or a throw or something that can be changed out either seasonally or if they become tired of it. And I think that really helps clients. I think that helps them feel like they're not just, going all neutral and they are sort of exploring things, but really in kind of a non-committal way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because if it's one thing to use some throw pillows and quite another to paint your walls a certain color.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. What about color combinations? I think it's some scary territory. I think a lot of people fear color combinations, and yet when it's done right, it can be so effective. What are some do's and don'ts that you can give us when it comes to pairing colors?
That is such a great question. And I'm very fearless with color. So, and I always like to say I've never met a color that I didn't love. So for me, I am not afraid to pair a lot of things that most people would find very scary and never go into that type of territory. I mean, one of the safest obviously are, blues and greens, yellows and greens. For me, from a design standpoint, are very simple, and most people can kind of embrace those types of colors. Obviously, blue and whites. So, most recently we're doing a lot with black, and we're finding that even with black and the way we're using it, maybe it's windows or door hardware or something like that, we're able to combine a lot with it, and it still looks wonderful and still gives the client just that little bit of dip into color, but not, they still feel like they're getting a neutral with the black.
Right. So, I mean, I guess I always classify black as a neutral, but
Mhm.
I suppose it can be a color when it's used as an accent. So if, you're doing something more like in the taupes or, beiges or what have you, and you have pops of black, it's as effective as, a more primary color would be, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Yes. In fact, we had a client years ago, a young client that we were having a really difficult time with figuring out her color palette. And that's when I had the aha moment of the closet, going into her closet, and almost everything in her closet was black.
Yeah.
Black.
So many people like that. Exactly.
Everything. And so we decided to paint walls in their home black and do a lot of the woodwork in black, which
wow.
years ago in Florida really was not being done. If you were in LA or New York, that would have been very standard, but it was very different for our environment. And the results were really stunning. And it was really interesting. And it was the first time I had really ventured into black woodwork and walls on a Florida project.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, that's, it seems counterintuitive, in a Florida project that just seems, like it should be so like bright and airy and,
Exactly.
the colors of the sea. But, sometimes it is all about standing out, right? And
absolutely. Absolutely. And as designers, we love a good challenge. So
exactly. And all projects are individual. So, it's all about the client's taste in the end. Wanted to talk a little bit about the Pantone color of the year. Does that come into your designs in any way, or design in general? I mean, I know a lot of furniture manufacturers a lot of times will kind of experiment with the color of the year and what have you. I know we in the magazine have always done like a spread, like, hey, here's what lilac can look like on furniture and accessories and whatnot. But do you ever consider what the color is when you're deciding for your own trends?
Yes, actually, and I, in the past few years, I've started to pay a lot more attention to the color of the year from various different vendors, Benjamin Moore and Pantone, etc. And I love to use it as a guide. It's a little bit more of a challenge sometimes to get clients to get on board with that. However, I did not realize until I started looking at this color of the year. We have a project right now that we are using a lot of the Pantone classic blue color in textiles for this particular project. And I was shocked when I saw the actual color because I thought, oh, wow, we're on trend. And we had no idea that we were. So,
right. And of course, that classic blue is 2020's color. And
exactly.
I think 2021 is some kind of aqua.
It's right? Aegean, I believe it's Aegean teal.
A teal, right. Yeah.
Teal, yeah, which is a beautiful color. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Aegean teal has a lot of black in it, so it's an extremely warm color. I think it depends on where you would use it. I think here in Florida, it would definitely look more like a deep, moody teal. Maybe up in the New England area, it would have more gray to it or feel more like a grayer tone.
Right, yeah, because the light makes all the difference
exactly.
in the way you interpret the color.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of something I've always wondered. Why is the Pantone color of the year important, even, in the design world? What is it just like a random selection? Like, okay, let's call this color of the year. How does it impact the design world in general, just sort of beyond your own projects?
Honestly, I think it impacts design in general across multiple. I think it's going to impact fashion. And I think, a lot of times we look to fashion to see what's happening in fashion and then kind of translate that and think about what's going to be happening in interiors. I always love to look at fashion So I think that, that color really extends well beyond our world of interior design. And, we're probably going to see it in a lot of clothing, probably jewelry, maybe home products and that type of thing. Who knows, maybe, actually, if you look at Tesla has a blue that's very similar to that color. So, they may have had some inside information before that color was announced.
True. And of course, the world of event design, you see
Yes.
weddings, weddings always have their own color palettes, and other events, that color always seems to come into play.
Mhm.
So really any kind of aesthetic endeavor, I think can benefit from it. So, well, now, speaking of color trends, what are you, besides the color of the year, what are you seeing for the coming year? Are we going more in a cool direction, a warm direction? Are there any special combinations? Tell me what trends you're seeing.
We're still seeing a lot of the cooler tones being used. Very slowly, we all of a sudden now have a few projects where we have clients that are embracing the corals and reds. And actually the project that I was talking about earlier, they're using the Pantone color, the classic blue, and they're combining that with almost like a Chinese red. So it's very interesting. It's a European couple. They are very fearless with colors. So I think people they're expanding their horizons, so to speak. Obviously, we're still getting a ton of requests for blue and white. That's kind of a staple here in our area. But it's really nice to see some of these warmer color tones kind of making their way, even if it's very subtle, whether it's toss pillows or, again, a throw or something. It's fun for us just to see that, to be able to change it up.
That's great. That's fantastic. And what about prints? I mean, because obviously color and prints very much go hand in hand. Are you seeing sort of new print patterns, and how does color play into those?
Well, personally, I love patterns, so I'm always trying to sneak it in as much as I possibly can with clients. And I think that it is interesting. For the longest time now, most of our clients were this was second homes, so they had a lot of maybe color or darker colors and patterns up north. Now a lot of them are moving here permanently. So I think that is actually giving us more of a chance in the design field to introduce a lot more pattern and experiment a lot more with color, because this is now the primary homes. So yes, they still want it to have a Florida feel, but maybe they miss some aspects of their homes in the Northeast or out West, and they want to bring that feeling back to Florida. So I think for us, I feel very, very confident that and excited that we're going to have more diversity with our design.
That's great. That's wonderful input, and I'm so excited that we had the opportunity to talk about color today, because so many people out there, I think, are interested in the topic, but it's really kind of a hard one to broach. And you've given us some really, really great advice today, Jackie. So thank you for being with us, and thank you to everyone for listening. I'm Daphne Nicolopoulos with Florida Design. Until next time at FD Conversations.
Thank you.